They say that April showers bring May flowers. And here in this first week of May, we are beginning to see the flowers come up. It's beautiful to see the tulips and the forsythia and other things just beginning to show forth here in this, in Minnesota, early springtime. Anyway, and some people have said, "Oh, Father, you're wearing your glasses," and they don't realize that very often I'm wearing contacts. But about once a month or so, I'll give my eyes a rest and wear my glasses, and maybe it makes me look smarter too. But especially this time of year with the pollen that's in the air too, sometimes it's nice to give my eyes a rest from the contacts. But I was able to be out in the garden a little bit yesterday, just kind of surveying what needs to be done, and it reminded me that we in the Northern Hemisphere are very blessed that Easter comes at the same time as spring. We celebrate the resurrection of Jesus as Mother Nature comes back to birth, comes back to life in this wonderful way that after the dead of the winter, and I mean in Minnesota, really dead, not just brown, but buried under inches or feet of snow sometimes. But now all of a sudden things are reemerging with new life. And it reminds me that, so often during Lent, you and I make resolutions. On Ash Wednesday, we're going to do this, we're going to change, we're going to be better. And then Easter Sunday comes, and all of a sudden we kind of backslide. We turn back to the way things were before Lent began. And we know out in the secular world, it happens that way too. That New Year's comes around and people make New Year's resolutions. And of all those resolutions, what tiny percent actually takes hold? We know that if you want to buy gently used exercise equipment, by February there are a lot of things collecting dust in people's houses that they were going to exercise and they were going to do this and that and the other, and all of a sudden it's not happening. We can sometimes live on waves of enthusiasm, but it just doesn't get us there. We have to have a more profound change. We have to have some longevity, perseverance, and not just a burst of energy. If you want to think about it in terms of athletics, because St. Paul used so many athletic images, not because I'm a very athletic priest, but we need to think about it not as a sprint, but as a marathon. We've got to be in this for the long haul. We have to go the distance. And so that's where you and I need to think about this crisis. So many of us are just ready for this to be over. All these stay-at-home orders, all these restrictions, the social distancing, the live stream of liturgies, we want to be together in church and pray. Absolutely. All those are good desires. But what is it that's going to be different after this? And I don't just mean that some of the restrictions will persist. What I mean, what is different in us after this? Can we let the Lord bring forth some good fruit from this? Let's not just turn back the clock and be like we were, exactly as we were before the pandemic hit. That would be a waste. One of the things that has to be done in a garden is pruning. And sometimes you look at a plant and it's big and it's full, and all of a sudden someone comes with the snippers, and all of a sudden you go, no, you're gonna take this big beautiful plant and you're gonna cut it down, you're gonna diminish it. And so we object to this. But in fact, in the wisdom of gardening, after being pruned, things flourish all the more. Now, there is a danger. Sometimes you can cut too deep. You can put the plant into shock and kill it. But oftentimes, the plant desperately needs pruning in order to put forth new branches with new blossoms. And what I'd like to think the Lord can accomplish through this crisis is some real pruning. Not just hitting a pause button and then we go back to life as it was before, but to allow this crisis to prune us. Not in the sense that we'd be diminished, but in the sense that we're going to flourish all the more after this. So what needs to be pruned away from us? Maybe because we're doing so much time on the computer, maybe using the computer for work and for school, maybe all of a sudden we put a moratorium after that and say, you know what, no more screen time for entertainment. we're going to have face-to-face entertainment. We're going to have socialization. Maybe without the extracurriculars, and especially the sports, which consume so much of family life. Maybe we're actually going to restitch our families together, and siblings are going to spend time with one another, and parents and children are going to have a better relationship because they're getting to know one another. Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. Maybe we haven't had good relationships in our families, but now we're stuck with one another. We can't escape. We can't hide in those extracurricular activities. So we have to learn how to get together, in a way that's peaceful and harmonious. We have to learn to forgive one another and be patient with one another. And that's something beautiful that this pruning that is happening during this crisis can bring forth. What other things? Well, you and I are not used to going to the store and finding empty shelves. That's a real shock to our American system. We live in a consumer society. We live in a convenience society. I should be able to click a button and it's there. And now even Amazon says I might have to wait for something? Oh my goodness. What happens when I can't go to my favorite restaurant, or I can't go to some entertainment, or I can't, do this or that or the other? I have to learn self-denial rather than self-indulgence. I don't get to simply have whatever whim I want. And sometimes it's not a whim. Sometimes it's a good desire that I have, but yet many people in the world don't get those things. And so you and I have to learn what it's like to be deprived. We have to learn not to coddle ourselves in our very affluent society. And there are a lot of people experiencing real hardship right now. Thanks be to God, if your family is not, but there are a lot of people, over 20 million, who've lost their jobs since this thing started. And so we need to learn solidarity with others who don't have everything that they want, who don't sometimes even have what they need, the basic necessities. How can we allow this crisis to bring forth a greater sense of detachment from materialism, a greater sense of solidarity with those in need? There's a lot of good that can come out of this crisis. So take this time. I know we're itching for things to restart. I am too, trust me. But let's take this time to examine what needs to be pruned. Lord, show me. Ask the Holy Spirit. We're in these weeks leading up to Pentecost. Ask the Holy Spirit. Convict me. Point out to me what needs to be pruned and help me to cut it off that I might flourish and blossom all the more. That's the way it works in the garden. That's the way it works in the garden of our souls if we let God be at work. Let's be open to His grace, not discouraged by this, but see what beautiful fruit, a fruit of holiness, the Lord can bring out of this. God bless you.